Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show, 20 minutes or so, give you some very cool information, tech topics, creation, weird science facts for the day. And since it's a 20-minute show, we do not have time to cover SpaceX or Blue Origin today, Sheldon. It's crazy that we can't cover these things. Also, another news story that Sheldon and I have talked in the past about on the show is the TikTok stuff that's going through the Supreme Court. That's a political story now. It's not a technical story anymore. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll let you know if it. Sheldon, what do you think the chances are of anything actually happening?
I don't think it will be banned.
See, there we go. There's our story right there. Done.
Yeah.
Sheldon, tell them who you are, by the way, and if anyone who hasn't listened to our show in the past and where you are.
I think this is my fourth or fifth time on here. I'm
way
right
more
behind,
than that. No, more.
I'm right behind Autumn.
Yeah.
So I'm the librarian supervisor for South Regional Library. I also oversee our creation station here, which is an audio and visual space.
And if you're in South Florida and you need a space, we've got one in the north end of the county and one in the south end of the county to go record all of your stuff, and maybe more coming soon. But that's for another show, because today we do not have a whale tank. I got to talk to somebody about this. Maybe we could do it. Did you actually listen to this recording, Sheldon?
I did listen to the recording.
What'd you think about it?
So first, in the article, it says that it's demonic. I don't think it's demonic. It's
exactly. That's my point. So to be clear for everybody who's listening and you're not following on the show notes yet, this is an article. They've taught orcas, killer whales, how to imitate human speech. So killer whales are now parrots. Maybe. But
well, they're very intelligent, so it makes sense. I mean, they're cousins of the porpoise, which is one of the smartest animals in the sea. So, it makes sense that they'd be able to do something like mimic sound, which I think was only reserved to some birds and humans.
Yep, some birds, some humans, and without any modifications. Now, there's also sign language and stuff, but this is actually human speech mimicking what they said. They have not proven that the killer whales understood what they said and why they said it yet. They have done that for other Cretaceous. Oh man, I screwed up pronouncing that altogether. For other dolphins, whales, stuff like that. And parrots, they did prove parrots do understand what they're doing when they vocalize a sound. And obviously primates have been known to do this with sign language, but this is the first time one of the larger species has been able to mimic this as a voice.
See, I didn't know that parrots knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they can actually carry a conversation on and ask questions of. There's a famous recording of a researcher with it asking its echo device doing back and forth with it.
That's fascinating. Funny. That actually makes me laugh inside, just because I know of Andrew Jackson's, our former president's parrot. A lot of colorful language.
Yeah.
And was thrown out of his funeral for cursing. So he knew what he was doing.
So all of these, some of these animals do understand. Now, obviously, it's not everybody. And there's an amazing video out there for the push buttons for cats and dogs. I follow a couple of those on Instagram. So the gist of this story is, animals are smart. Be nice to animals. And don't presume they don't know what's going on. They're paying pretty close attention.
Well, we knew they were smart, because wasn't it when they were attacking the yachts that eventually the conclusion was that, these are just some teenagers doing it for fun?
Yeah,
I think was the final conclusion.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's just really, really crazy for all of the things that killer whales do out there in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, open sea human tipping is what they're doing out there.
Yeah. Yep. I keep going back to this picture of the tongue. I'm just like, man, it can roll its tongue better than I can.
Yeah.
So our cool, fun, feel-good story for the week is watch duty. And if you have paid any attention to the wildfires in Los Angeles, California, and everything that's been going on in Southern California, beyond just watching a news headline, you might have heard about this. If you have friends or family in California, in the Western United States, you should be downloading this app. This is what the internet was made for. This is a couple of people who got together to say, hey, we need better information about fires. They started long before this current one. They've just exploded into popularity because of what's going on right now in California. And this is a nonprofit organization that does not want to make money. All they're asking for is use our app. And if you like it and it's helped you, help donate so we can keep the servers running. Mm-hmm. And that's it. None of these people are trying to actually pull a salary or anything. It's like, this is what the internet was all originally meant to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's about collaboration. It's about giving back. It's about expanding communication, essentially, and information. So this app is definitely in that model. It's sort of like the Wikipedia model, where we're giving you a lot of information for free. You know, donate if you've helped, but we're not going to force you. We're not going to put it behind a paywall.
Right. And they don't take advertising. They don't do anything like that. I mean, they've got something like 20, or they had originally like 20 people working as volunteers. Everybody's just volunteers who built the app, who host it to make sure everything's running, to fact check the data that's in there. It's just insane how much cool stuff is there. I've been able to check on all sorts of friends in Southern California and say, no, they are safe. No, this fire's here. Wait, now this new fire popped up only 6 miles away from her. Mm-hmm. She's, smoke, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the good story. It's the fun, good, feel-good story. I know fires are not a feel-good thing. We're going to get to other parts of those fire stories in a minute.
No, but in human ingenuity and using technology to help the world be a better place, that's always a feel-good story.
Sadly, Sheldon, I'm taking us into a dark place. Meta, Facebook, not feel-good stories, not the good side of the internet. So if you have not heard this news already, over the last week and a half or so, Facebook, Meta, has decided that they are going to do away with their fact checkers and a lot of their community guideline stuff on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads. And so it has really changed things in the United States as people view these things. But one of our favorite websites, Rest of World, points out these changes are going to affect a huge chunk of the world, because are you going to continue to do fact checking in other countries and other languages that already struggled to get the fact checking correct? And the article just casually mentions it, you can't do that in Europe. The EU does not allow you to not fact check. Yeah. So what's going to happen to Facebook and Meta when you have to have 2 or 3 or 60 different setups for how the feeds look and are verified? And have you done any of the community note stuff that's on other websites?
No, I do not have a Twitter. I'm sorry, an X account. I'm old school, sorry. But I do like their community notes. I don't know how it works, but I do like that model of it.
Effectively, community notes, if you're not aware of how those, or if you haven't actively used them before, if someone makes a post, Sheldon makes a post out there saying how great the creation station at South Regional has been for his business, I can make a community note saying, yes, the creation station at South Regional is really good for business, but Sheldon happens to be the person in charge, so he's biased. And someone else can come in and say, well, yeah, Sheldon's a great guy and he's really telling the truth, even though he works there. And so you can get people who are trying to add context to what is happening and or agree or disagree with what the poster said and say, well, you twisted the facts this way or that other way.
See, I thought fact checking was just done internally. I didn't realize that there's different companies in different countries that kind of are like third parties that are contracted out. I didn't realize that Meta contracted that out to different parties in different countries.
Yeah. So I've got the map up there. You'll see most of the planet is being hired by Meta to do fact checking for outside of their own country sometimes, a lot of times. So, yeah.
I also didn't realize that India is Meta's biggest user.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why I love this website. India is the second or first largest country in the world by population. It is definitely the largest one by democracy type things and everything. So yeah, we in the United States tend to forget that, wait, there's a whole chunk of the world that doesn't need us. They've got their own whole infrastructures running and going and doing stuff.
Yeah.
So you should be working with them.
And I'm pretty sure Meta is banned in China, if I recall.
For the most part, yes. Most of their stuff is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to fly through 4 quick links here, and then I'm going to get your opinion, Sheldon.
Okay.
Number 1, if you saw this in the news last week, a drone took out one of the firefighting airplanes.
I did see that.
Horrible news. We're going to come back to it. 2 people were arrested for flying drones over a different fire in LA, interfering with sheriffs and people trying to work the fire. And there's other incidences that the LA sheriff is trying to investigate about drones flying over all these disaster areas. And here's the FAA website that you're supposed to go visit and fill out the information on before you fly your drone anywhere. So in a nutshell of those things, tell me, Sheldon, what do you think we could be doing about these drones?
I had thought that they were already programmed so that they don't fly over restricted space.
Oh, wait a minute. I've got a story for you, Sheldon.
Yeah.
DJI, which is the leading drone manufacturer, they happen to be a Chinese company. They followed all of the rules about giving warnings about when you are going to fly over a wildfire or the White House or over airports. There's a requirement in the law that you put a warning on the screen for the person who's flying the drone, and that you report that information to the FAA that somebody is flying over those areas.
Yeah.
DJI went above and beyond that by putting geofencing, by intentionally changing their software to say, you're not allowed to fly our drones over these areas, and we will stop you. We will physically disable your drone so that it can't do these things.
But that's what I remembered. Someone I know had a drone, and they had little restricted areas that they really couldn't fly in.
And unfortunately, the company has chosen to go back on and take away those extra things they did and revert back to just what the law requires. And so now if you take one of their drones and try and fly it over a wildfire very soon, it's not immediate right now, but it's coming very soon, you'll be able to fly one of their drones over the wildfires because you'll just get a warning on your controller saying, hey, you're about to go do something stupid. So, I'm sorry, go back. Tell us.
See, it's not that I'm concerned of as much as I'm concerned about like airports. Like, there essentially would be like bird strikes if you allowed anyone to just fly a drone in the airport. Yeah.
And one of the problems with this, let me see if I can get the exact size. I think it's a 35 centimeter wide, sub 250 gram. So the drone that hit that tanker is a small little thing that would fit in your hand. It's not the tradition. When we talk about drones, in my mind, knowing all this stuff, I think drone, big, huge, 4 foot wide, flying military / camera operator thing, not the simple little quadcopters that a lot of people think about. And those little simple quadcopters That's what took down that plane.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a big monster 20-pound drone that was flying around that somebody was using. This is just 250 grams.
Yeah.
I mean, I put less than that in my chicken burrito. So, or about that same size. So, I mean, this is 2 burritos. If you want to think about how big this little drone is, that went and smashed into an airplane that was trying to fight the fires.
And it stinks. Those planes are actually pretty good. Those are the ones from Vancouver, right?
Yeah, the one that got taken out came down from Vancouver, helping the United States fight fires.
Yeah.
And some idiot thought it was okay to fly a drone over the fire to get some cool shots.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, I will reiterate, we are putting the link to the FAA site, the Federal Aviation Administration site, in the show notes. Go click there. Go register your drone. Go make sure you're following their rules. As Sheldon said earlier about here in Broward County and flying around airports, 2/3 of Broward County, you cannot fly a drone in because you are too close to an airport, a heliport, a blimp base.
Yep.
We have lots of things here in Broward County like that. So don't do it.
To make it clear, you're still liable. Like the article says that it's now your responsibility.
Yeah.
The onus is on you. You're the one going to jail.
Yeah. Not the company, not anybody with the software. It's like, you are the one who chose to do this. So, hey, do this.
Yeah.
Just craziness. So we do have one last story to cover. But I want to ask you, Sheldon, do you feel lonely?
It depends. I mean, for the most part, no. I like my alone time. But that's precisely why this article got my attention. You can introduce it.
So tell me. Well, the article talks about how people are more lonely now than they were. And I always question those kinds of assertions of, well, people are worse off now than they were then. And I'm like, just because everybody lived in one house together doesn't mean they all liked each other and wanted to be there. I'm pretty sure those farmers went out in the field and worked, and they were pretty happy to get away out of that house.
Yeah. So this article,
tell me.
It struck me because I can see it on social media where it's not just that people are lonely, it's that they're like avoiding contact with other people and just like embracing the loneliness. And that loneliness is stemming from things we might not think about, like television, cars, and of course, the phone.
Yeah.
Those are like 3 of the main drivers, and that we're no longer like trying to do things in person. We're no longer keeping up with rituals. Like, say in the past, Bob would host someone at his house. Then maybe a week or 2 later, someone else would host him at the house. Yeah. That's not happening anymore. It also goes into how libraries are being defunded. There's not many spaces where people can meet each other.
That third space outside of the home and work. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those anymore. So it was going into the root causes of it, and it was just mentioning that people are feeling lonely, and this is the cause of it. And maybe, one little ritual by a little ritual, you try to make some changes. You don't skip out on that dinner with a friend because you're tired. You actually go out and do that.
Yeah.
And also that texting is no substitute for interacting with people. And it actually made me change my mind on something.
Tell me, because I still have my disagreements with this article I want to get to, but tell me.
So I thought, okay, I'm an introvert, so I just need that time to recharge. So that's why I was saying no to people. But maybe it is because of all the texting and the social media that I don't actually get that time to recharge, so that I can then feel like hanging out with people.
Right.
People just have all this access to me, so I'm never getting a chance to turn my brain off and recharge.
That right there, access. Thank you. That's the phrase that I like.
Yeah.
Is because I personally, I do talk to everyone. I've worked with the public for effectively all of my life. I've never been in a space where I don't have at least 20 to 30 interactions over the course of 4 hours, let alone maybe sometimes in an hour. So I get a lot of that input. I get those feelings. So I understand I'm different than other people who may work in an office or do things like that. And some people who do way more than me, who the example in here about working at the bar, where you used to feel overwhelmed because you had so many people at the bar that you're trying to work with. And now you don't have anyone coming in because it's turned into a takeout instead of a come and hang out. And so now you're feeling lonely because the level of interaction has dropped so drastically.
Yeah.
But I wonder how, and everybody needs to go read this article. This is a super long article like we love to do on this show. I do like how they show how far down the article is. In those 2 minutes that we've been talking about it, we only scrolled 10% of the article.
It's long. I mean, I actually read it in person because we had it on the shelf. Yeah. It's like 20 pages.
Yeah, it goes in depth, and I have my disagreements with it, but I do see the idea of why people feel alone. And I kind of was like, really? They're using the phone how many hours?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I feel bad. Like my phone usage has gone up to like almost 4 hours a day on average.
Yeah.
But that's work and home and everything all combined. And they're talking about the average is 6 and 7 hours. And I'm like, how?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the average.
What are you doing? I don't understand. But maybe we'll see those stories coming up in the next few days. Or maybe one of our listeners has a comment about that. And you know where they can send it? Sheldon?
Oh, at creationstation@broward.org.
See, there we go. Sheldon knows. Plus, by the way, we have those surveys in the link. You can hit us up if you want to be anonymous and not let us know who you are when you're sharing your horror story about how many hours you're on the phone. Thank you for being here, Sheldon. Man, we're just keep on going and going and going. I got to shut myself up. If there is a Creation Station space you want to see featured on a future show, reach out. Creation Station at broward.org. And we'll see everybody next week.